Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Hey, System and Soul listeners, Mackenzie Reeves Decker here, operator for System and Soul. I'm here today along with some very special guests for this week's episode. We are being kind for once to Chris and Benj, and we're giving them the day off. So we've got a couple new voices today. I sort of told them that I wanted to take over this interview because I've been wanting to hear from this person that we have today for a very long time. But before we introduce our guests, I want to introduce you to my co-pilot for today's episode. His name is Clay Scroggins. Clay is a pastor, speaker, and author. He has written 2 incredible books, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge, and How to Lead in a World of Distraction. He's joined us on this podcast before, so make sure you go check out his episode in our library. But today he's here to ask the tough questions of our guest today. Clay, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Mackenzie, I love the way you did that in such a sly way. You're like, hey, why don't y'all take the week off? You know, that's like a really gentle way to be like, hey, move. I'm gonna do this one.
That's how I get most things done.
I feel like she was leading when she wasn't in charge. Maybe
Hey,
right there.
some
That's
would
a
say.
good example.
Taking tips from the
That's right.
expert.
For those of you who are listening for the first time, we're really glad you're with us. You got to come back. You got to come back for the regular hosts. And for those of you that have been around for a while and you're like, oh, finally an upgrade from Benj and Chris, on behalf of Mackenzie and myself, you're welcome. But I do want to introduce our guest today. Tricia, I met you probably 8 years ago when Belay, at the time, it was, it was the Miles Advisory Group, I believe. Small little eager company. Your story of becoming a CEO is, your own personal journey is remarkable, and I can't wait to hear all of it firsthand. But you started at the bottom, now you're at the top. This is the way dreams are made right here. But if you would tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about Belay in just a second. But let's start with you first.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for the introduction. There's a Drake song about that.
I think so.
Started at the bottom. Now we're here. We started.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
Now we're at the
link
top.
to the song if you don't know, because I feel like it's my personal anthem at times.
There you go.
So, anyway, it's great to be with you guys today. I'm Tricia Sciortino, the CEO of Belay. And if you don't know Belay, we're a staffing organization. We've been around since 2010. So going into year 11, and I've had the privilege and opportunity to work and meet so many amazing people like you, Clay. Clay, we've had you come in and teach on your book. I remember years when you came and really invested in our team and leadership development, and it's been an amazing ride. Personally, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have 2 daughters who are in high school, which I don't know how that's possible because I'm only 29. And I have a Yorkie, and and I love leading people in organizations, and I'm all about delegation and owning your journey, which goes, kind of into my Drake song, is that I think we can all start wherever we are and get to the top. So
Tricia, one of my favorite speaking engagements I've ever done was not the one you were referring to, but it was the Christmas party for Belay, I believe.
Yes.
And it's the only so that you all had asked me to come and do like a little Christmas devotional. Yes. What I didn't realize is that it would be an open bar before any of this got started. And so it's the only time I've ever spoken in front of a crowd that felt like they were most people were slightly buzzed, I guess. And so it was, the jokes were funnier. The stories were better. I was like, oh, this is why comedians became comedians and not preachers, because of alcohol. So
yes, and we were all standing and mingling. We weren't sitting in rows. It was
so good.
Really engaging.
So good.
I remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah.
Well, tell us about Belay as well. It's a staffing company, but how did it start, and
Yes.
how did you get connected with it?
Yeah, so I worked with the founders, Brian and Shannon Miles. I worked with Brian years ago at a different organization, worked at a church construction company. And I was a remote assistant, and he was an executive. And the concept of providing virtual assistant remote support to people was birthed out of our relationship. And so, what we do is we provide virtual assistants and now bookkeepers and social media strategists as well to small businesses and leaders who need help and support. And so, 11 years ago, the founder, Brian Miles, decided that he was going to start a business where he would align leaders who needed it with great virtual assistants. And at the time, I was his virtual assistant, and he asked me to kind of join him, for the journey. And so I did. I mean, I hopped on board back in 2010 with, on a wing and a prayer, if you will, during a recession a little bit in 2010, and took the chance to say, okay, we believe there's something to this. We believe we can serve people well. We believe there's leaders out there who need support, who are having a hard time finding support. And that was our mission right out of the gate, was to serve people with the right people to help them elevate. And that was kind of the core foundational principles we went into. And we also wanted to be a company that everybody wanted to work for. We were kind of like anti-establishment, we were so against the grain. We went into it and said, we want to be anti-corporate. We want to be the place people want to work. We want to be a place people are banging down the door to get into because we're such an amazing company to work for. And so foundationally, that has been something that's been at Belay's core all along, is our culture and who we are as an organization mattered from the day we started. And it's been an undercurrent and a thread of ours that we want to be a place people enjoy working. And then we validate those things by, having great retention, but also getting, awards like, best places to work and things like that. Like those to us are extremely rewarding because it means we're accomplishing that mission.
Tricia, as you're speaking, you may not even know how well aligned you are with a lot of what we teach and what the people, our listeners, our coaches, and the companies that we work with running on System and Soul are after the same mission. And I know that we're all so curious, and I think you could speak to both sides of that, of how you, over the last over 10 years, now that you've got 10 years under your belt, what does it look like to, how did you really foster both of those things together and at the same time? And what worked well and what didn't even?
Yeah. So we use a term and a definition in our organization. We call the blend of culture and performance as engagement. So we have a definition for employee engagement, and the definition is the marriage of a high performing person and one that is very satisfied with their job at the same time. And so if you equally focus on both of those things and you put equal effort as a leadership team and as management and as an organization to meet both pieces of that pie, then what you end up with is great culture. And so there were times throughout our journey where we were weighted too heavy on one side, and there were times when we were weighted too heavy on the other side. And you can see how those things would show up, where maybe we were in a season we were so focused on achieving a goal or a number or success, or so results-based driven that you saw employee satisfaction dip. Or maybe there were seasons where we overcorrected and we were so focused on caring and loving and supporting our team that you would see your results dip. And so what we've learned is that keeping those equally balanced and having actually focus and metrics around both of those things that you're watching at the same time and that you're achieving both is what is the culmination of ideal success in our version. Is that we don't care, you can have great okay, I run a business, so we can have great revenue. But if I'm losing people and I'm churning people and I have an unsatisfied team that's not productive, there's a cause and effect on both sides. So that's what we've done is we've focused on literally having measures for both of those things.
There's a, I mean, there's a labor shortage, a labor crisis that's happening in every industry, which I feel like positions Belay really well because so much of what you do is help provide great employees, great virtual employees for people. But has that affected you all? Has it affected your own? I mean, you all have been growing. You've been hiring a lot, it feels like.
Yes.
Are you feeling the same thing everyone else is feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think we absolutely are. We are experiencing people leaving to go do other things for a multitude of different reasons, whether they've decided to go back into a full-time market, they decided to change careers because of personal reasons. We're definitely seeing retention and employee churn and contractor churn as a real live thing. I think we've been able to, as we analyze it as a staffing organization, gosh, if we don't know this, we're in a pickle, right? But like, when we analyze it, what we really find out is that it's the same thing it's always been. It's just really highlighted is that people leave their leaders and they leave poor environments. People can tell you they're leaving for more money. They can tell you they're leaving for whatever reason. The end of the day, people will stay when they love their job and they will sacrifice financial gains if they enjoy the work that they do. And so that has been something that we've paid very close attention to. It's like the culture piece today is now even more important than it's ever been before. And so extra highlighting or, we actually sit around and have meetings about how can we enhance our culture? What can we do so culture is more present and prevalent? How can we make sure we're not forgetting to cast vision on a more regular basis? It's almost as if the employee, it's almost become a requirement, for an employee to come in and say, I actually don't need to stay someplace or work for somebody that doesn't treat me well and doesn't care about me. And actually, I desire to work someplace where I'm valued. And so the answer to the question is you will churn if people don't feel valued. You'll lose them, but you give them purpose and you help them see their value and you express literally gratitude, verbally, like literal gratitude. People like, oh, I think in my head how grateful I am, but you actually have to say it out loud. Express gratitude out loud, and people will stay with you.
Hanging on your words, so I'm trying to think of what to ask next. There's just so much to it, and the one thing I've been thinking about, and we hear this from the coaches that we work with and the clients that they have, and especially if we're talking about small business or we're talking about small teams, I think high performers get promoted to leadership positions. And then, and you spoke to this in some of the questions that we asked you before this interview. Maybe you can speak to it here. Those high performers end up being in the leadership position, and then they want to hoard all of the, they want to hoard everything and hold on to it because it's hard to, especially in talent crisis like right now, where you see people come and go in a flash, and I think, those types of high performers get jaded in a way. It's like, well, if I'll just do it then, or I'll just hold on to it because I can't trust, or, I can't, they don't know how to hand out the work, or I think you've used the term, give it away. And I'm so curious what you tell leaders when they're in that mindset or they're in that place, needing the help, but not knowing how to get it.
Yeah, so there's so many different things at play here. I mean, the first one is like if one of my reports is coming to me and saying, they're overburdened and overworked or they don't want to delegate something, the first thing I go to is our jobs as leaders is our job actually is no longer to do the work. Like that is just, and the day you went from I'm an employee to now I'm a manager, I'm a leader, the act of physically doing is not for you anymore. I mean, your job description probably doesn't say anything about the things you're going to go do. It becomes more about influence. It becomes more about helping people make decisions. It becomes more about, guiding people to make the right decisions or being the decision maker. At this point, you're trying, your job is really to influence others to do their work well in a way that supports the organizational health or whatever the mission or project you're trying to complete. And it's not about doing. And so it's something that we learned the really hard way, is because everyone gets in the place where they promote the high performer, the hypo, because they're a hypo. And then the hypo has no idea how to lead people. So they actually think it's going to be more of the same. And actually, it's completely two different skill sets. And so we try to evaluate, like, just because you're the best doer of this thing, does that equal you are now a good leader of that thing, or leader of people who do that thing? You may have an expertise on the thing, but can you translate that into coaching, teaching, influencing, and training? Because you're not supposed to be doing the doing. So there's that part of it, like the mental mind shift that we have to correct when people apply for promotion or whatever. Like, we're evaluating their ability to no longer do things.
Can I jump in, Tricia, and ask you something there? Can you take us back to the moment in the last 10 years in your own career when you had to make that? Because this is your story.
Yes.
I mean, you were a hypo and now you are a leader of leaders. Was there a moment, and can you tell us about it?
Yeah, every day, Clay, every day. So I bang up against this wall all the time. So it's just iterative. So I remember specifically, I think this was years ago, probably 8+ years ago. I don't know. We were small. I think we had 14 employees. And I went to my boss, and I was leading maybe 2 or 3 people, but I was still doing all the work. And I was just like, man, I am burnt out. I'm up against the wall. I'm working all these hours, whatever. And he says, that's your fault. I have no expectation of you working all those hours. I have every expectation that as you appropriately distribute the work and make sure the work gets done. But if you're up against a wall, you put yourself there. And I was like, okay.
Shoot.
Geez.
Like, it's your job to get yourself off the stinking wall. And so from that moment on, I'm like, oh God, I'm putting myself here, because a good leader, even if there is too much, is going to appropriately say, okay, we have to prioritize. All this can't get done at one time. There's such a thing as balance and pacing and speeding. And sometimes we do things for the sake of doing them, and we don't have clarity on what we're trying to accomplish in the first place. And so, I think we put ourselves up against a wall first and foremost. And if we feel like our leader put us up against a wall because they've overloaded us, then it's still our job to go address that issue and say, hey, I have more work than I have hours in my day. And so can we talk through the priorities on what's urgent, what can wait, what maybe somebody else can do, which goes right into the kind of the art of just knowing and understanding how to delegate and manage up and manage down. Because it's a two-way street.
That's such a great story and such a great example. Do you remember how it made you feel then?
Yeah, I was kind of, I was relieved, and I was almost like kicking myself.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, like what? Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, he's totally right. He's not sitting there going, work harder, work longer,
right.
Because I'm a high performer, and I'm, was at this place where I'm looking to grow my career. I was in a season where I was like, I will do more to prove myself. I will do more to prove myself. I will own more to prove myself. And so I wanted to take on more work so I could prove I could get to the next level. Now that it worked for me in some
Sure.
sense, right? Because I am where I am. But not as it related to being the hoarder of all the work. Actually, what I was doing is I was hurting myself. I was burning myself out. I was exhausted. I was
Mm,
tired. You can't make good decisions when you're burnt out. So it took me years to figure out, like, how do I have good balance in my work and really do a better job at prioritizing and delegating. And that's been iterative. And so I do it probably twice a year, and I have my team do it where we literally sit down and we go, what's on my plate? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Should somebody else be doing this? Like, what would be my ideal state? What would my week look like? We have like a chart that we map it all out. Like, ideal, this is what my workday looks like. Um, and then does that correlate with the things I'm supposed to be doing? And we walk through this whole exercise a couple times a year. And I've done it personally for years, but now I ask my team to do it because I actually want them to be as free and own their time as much as I do, and actually expect them to actually put in blocks of golden hour, which is like professional development. I want you to read a leadership book for a couple pages, an hour a week. Um, I want you to develop yourself,
yeah,
and think time, because as leaders, we actually need time to sit with ourselves, think
love
about the
it.
business. Yeah.
Incredible. And that's throughout your whole organization. 1,200
Yeah.
plus people. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're about 120 employees, and we're about 1,700, 1,800 contractors right now. So in total, we're we're almost at the 2,000 lives at this point. Yeah.
That um, that Mackenzie, I love that you brought it up at the beginning about how everything Tricia's talking about does feel like it aligns so well with system and soul. That there is such a system to what clearly you just the way you've been talking about this, you've been oozing system. But I've been around Belay enough to know that soul part is real. I mean, you guys believe in what you're doing. You care deeply about people. You have a blast working there. I mean, like y'all are making music videos and throwing parties and I mean, it is a good time. What would you say to people that are,
Yeah.
maybe new entrepreneurs that are trying to develop that culture? What are some of the things that you felt like year 1, 2, 3, as you look back, you think, okay, those really helped develop the soul of our company?
Yeah, I think, one of the exercises we went through really early on, what helped us keep our focus was really developing, even when we were probably 8 people. I mean, we developed our core values when we were 8 people. When we were 8 people, like, okay, what do we align with? And one of our core values was fun. And so, because we wanted to not be overly corporate, we wanted to be the place people wanted to work. And we felt like great culture is that high performer, that engaged employee who enjoys coming to work. You can have fun at work and still get your work done. And so we just had this passion around our core values, and fun being one of them. And then another one of our core values is team. So you put those two together, you put fun together and team together, and then you agree to adhere to those core values for the life of the organization. And then you have to figure out ways they show up. You have to have fun and you have to be a team. And so that's why we have Christmas parties where there's open bars, or we will have scavenger hunts on Zoom, or we will do a would you rather on a Zoom with our team, because we believe in our core values showing up every day, and we've really stuck with it, and we've been dedicated to making sure we don't lose sight of them. It'd be very easy, especially like, gosh, the last 2 years we've all lived through. It would be very easy to not have any fun the last couple of years, right? I mean, there were some months things were not feeling fun. And yet, we pulled ourselves together and said, but it's a core value. And so we're going to exude fun. And so even though we're in the midst of a pandemic and we're losing business, we're going to ask the team if you can only have one utensil for the rest of your life, would it be a fork or a spoon? And that has been an ongoing debate ever since. So
It's
we have team
it's
fork
a
and we have team
spoon.
spoon.
It's
The
the
fork.
spoon, no doubt.
It's totally a fork.
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't know.
here we
I think
go.
it's a fork.
2 against
We have
1. You guys are ganging
you
up.
know, so I think, right, my advice would be like, know who you are and who you want to be, put it on paper, and even if you're 2 people, 3 people, 4 people small, write it down, plast it on the wall, and then live it out and create plans on how it shows up all the time and don't let it go.
Quick
I love that.
side note. So inside of our company, one of the cultural attributes that we strive for is fun. And one of the
Awesome.
we put habits in place, organizational habits. And one of the things that we're trying to do, so one of our habits is hug, pray, and dance, which is hilarious. So it's cool, but here's the thing, like half of our team or more is like introverted people who would never want to dance in a room or on a Zoom, which we've done like ever. And here we are like, 3 or 4 people. I think Clay's been there once before where we're just like dancing in the room together. And it's the silliest thing, but it creates this sort of communal moment, whether it's a ridiculous question or just everyone's feeling awkward together. It's like,
Yes.
it's incredible.
Yes. Cohesion. I mean, and that's like, you get team building, team bonding, and call it what you will. I say cohesion is like, awkward moments like that where you're totally pushing people out of what's comfortable and then allowing people who love it to just be all in their glory at the same time. It just creates cohesion. At our last meeting, we did a lip sync battle, and we broke our entire company into groups of people, and we just handed them a random song and a box of props, and we said, go to town. And we had like our accounting department finance people like mortified that they were going to have to lip sync to like Rihanna, with a, blow up guitar or whatever. But I mean, we were going for it. and cohesion,
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm curious, Tricia, with the strength of that value, fun in your organization, what are your other ones that I imagine there's some balance in there as well? I'm curious what they are.
Yes, we have some good ones. I mean, God is our number one core value. I mean, we're a Christian organization. We were founded to serve the church. And that's expanded. And so now we get to serve all kinds of organizations, but we always give God the glory. And so that's a core value of ours. And so we have behaviors that show up that represent God, like praying before meetings. And, there's things we put in place so that God is always present. We're always lifting him up in everything we do. Vision is a core value of ours because we started an organization that at the time was very, we believe, innovative. I mean, nobody back in 2010 was doing this remote work, fractional virtual assistant thing. And so we knew we had to have the vision of what could be and the vision of being innovative and future thinking. So that's one of our core values as well. And then passion is one of them. We don't ever want to do anything and we don't believe in complacency. And so we will do everything passionately with excellence and put all we have and then some into everything we do. So complacency does not exist in our organization. So those are some of our other core values.
Tricia, I was thinking about what you were saying about how during the pandemic, everybody was so afraid of business that was being lost. And I feel like I know there was a season for Belay where you were feeling the same thing, but at the same time, I mean, quickly, the way you had been running your company, the way you had established your company quickly gave you quite an advantage because you were founded as a virtual company. You provide fractional virtual assistants to people. Can we talk about virtual culture a little bit? Because you're the first company that I had ever heard of that had created this magnetic, remarkable soul of a company, and you're only in a room together
4 times a year.
So what? Maybe I know that could be a long conversation, but give me, if you would, Here's the one thing that we do really well that makes that work. And what's the one mistake that companies make when they're trying to create that virtual culture?
Yeah, so there's a lot, you're right. But if I'm going to talk about one thing, I'm going to say if you are remote, you are probably on a Zoom. If you are not on a Zoom and you're on a conference call, you need to get on Zoom because at
Mm.
least you're two-dimensional, you're not one-dimensional, like eyeball to
And
eyeball, see your face.
you would have said that in January of 2020.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. If you are literally like conference calling, everybody calling to this line and we're going to have a finance meeting. What? No. Like move to Zoom. And I think a lot of people got that quickly. They said, okay, we have to get on Zoom. Cameras need to be, the whole point of Zoom is that you're seeing people. Turn your cameras on, right? Like when you have like just the person's like image sitting there, like they're not on the Zoom, in my opinion. So be on the Zoom. And then because you're virtual and you're leading an organization via Zoom, Zoom, your etiquette and your rules of engagement while virtually working together are important. And so like we have rules on how we engage via Zoom and webcam because we are a remote company. And some of those rules are things like you don't go on mute unless you have a barking dog, because that will defer you from engaging in a conversation. If you're muted, you're muted, so you're not going to talk up, and you're probably not going to go through the effort of, so you're not muted, your video is on, you're in a place that looks like where you're supposed to be, and you're engaging, and that the leader and the moderator of the meeting, whoever that may be, whether it's the leader of that meeting, is moderating the meeting, and your core values are literally built into your agenda. So like our core values, right? So I already told you, God, every single meeting we're opening in prayer on Zoom with mutes off, cameras on, everybody's looking at the screen, right? We believe in fun. So we will have 5 minutes of chit chat, silly talk. What's in the news? What's the best movie you saw? What's on Netflix? Fork or spoon? Like spend 5 minutes on fun. Then get to your meeting, then get to your agenda. And because people's time matters and Zoom fatigue is real, follow your agenda and end on time. So like if you could do a couple of those things, your core values show up, you're face to face, you're eyeball to eyeball, you're injecting fun, you're not muting, people are engaged, they're not sitting with their camera off, you inject, some fun, whatever those are for you, you could figure out how to have great web meetings, you will start facilitating great virtual culture.
It's great.
You all need to hear that all the time.
I thought you were going to list about 5 things that I've already done.
I have many more things, but like that's the most important. I mean, like that, you have to figure out how to engage people on webcam. And so I've had people say to me, like I've sat in like webinars or whatever, and they're like, you're so animated and engaging on Zoom. Wow, it's like you're not boring. And and I said, yeah, that's part of what goes with this, right? Is like I am animated, I'm engaging, I'm moving. Like part of it is part of engagement. And so you have to foster and create virtual engagement. And so that's what it looks like. It's like nobody wants to sit on a Zoom call where it's Charlie Brown teacher, and people, like make it interesting.
Love it. Way to go.
Well, Tricia, as we are so grateful for the time that we've gotten with you, and it's just clear that, I mean, for your career trajectory and the time that you've been leading Belay, the time that you started as an assistant, it seems like you've just been making things better as you go, and it sounds like you're making things better for almost 2,000 people right now in the organization that you've built. So thank you for your time. As we close, we always ask our guests sort of what's the one piece of advice you'd leave us with?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. This has been fun. You guys are great. I would say my one piece of advice would be, which we didn't talk about it too much, but it is for people to really recognize that you own your power and you own your journey. And your life is yours. You make your decisions. The career is the path you create. And sometimes a lot of people feel like they can't see opportunity, or they're stuck, or things look dismal. And I would leave them with a word of encouragement to say that sometimes opportunity is not waiting, and sometimes you actually, you need to build the door. You need to create your opportunities, and that's really for you to do, and it's absolutely possible.
Love that.
Build the
You know
door.
what?
Build the door. Yeah.
One of my dreams for you and for Belay, Tricia, is to hear the Belay story on how I built this.
That would be
You know that
awesome.
podcast?
Yes.
I feel like they
Yes.
need to tell your story. I feel like
Yeah.
you as a leader, you're remarkable, your journey's remarkable, but also the company that you all have created in such a short amount of time, it really is remarkable. So yeah, I echo Mackenzie's sentiments. This has been fabulous. We have so much respect for you. So thank you.
Now
Likewise.
everybody go tweet at how I built this and get Tricia.
That's
on the
right.
podcast.
Yeah. Thank you guys. This has been so fun. I enjoy both of you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, System Info listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for another episode of the System Info podcast.